what Bitcoin did right was it came up with this decentralized idea. They've educated the public to a certain degree on why I need a currency that's decentralized, why I need a currency that's democratized. There is actually a mechanism that I can use a non-trusted centralized entity to manage these transactions for me. And that's what Bitcoin proved. Bitcoin went out there for the last 10 years or so, has proved to the world that you can in fact have a currency that has some operational value that is completely decentralized. And that's what they got right. They've created a market space for that, so they did a lot of work in getting frameworks in place where you could buy and sell it. They proved that in fact it is immutable. In other words, it can't be changed. It's non-corruptible, right? And that's a big piece of this. Okay, we always talk about, and the reason we don't want a trusted centralized agency is because we think it's corruptible, and it is, right? But Bitcoin proved that you can create a solution that is non-corruptible, and that's one of the things that they did really well, right? They've made some mistakes. They're sort of stuck in their kind of rut now because they've got a technology solution out there and so many users, they can't really turn the corner on fixing some of the issues that they've created. But they did do those things really well. So what they've done is they've staged now the world for the proper cryptocurrencies to come into place. Bitcoin 2.0 is some new iteration that actually manifests the truly decentralized solution. Right now, the way that Bitcoin is set up is it, by default, has created what we call these mining pools. So there's these pools of large processing power out there. So think about these giant data centers that sometimes you see on TV, right? Except they're run by one entity. And the original manifestation was that there'd be tens of thousands of individuals running these solutions, right? And they'd all be effectively voting on what would be the proper transaction to put on that chain. What has happened, though, is because the way Bitcoin is technologically created, it requires tremendous amount of processing power that we as individuals don't have on our desks. We certainly don't have them in our houses. You might not even have them at your work, right? So you need these massive pools of processing power that very few people can afford to put together. So what that means right now is there's about 15 different pools worldwide that are actually running the entire blockchain. There are 10,000 or so nodes, quote unquote, that are supposed to be helping, but in the last several years, not a single one of those has actually contributed to what we call the blockchain itself, right? So this decentralized idea faded away. It fell off because of the way that the technology is structured. You have to have massive pools of processing. Very few people can afford it. Now what you've got, again, is a centralized power structure. So we need to fix that. Okay. Number two, how do I actually get everybody to participate in that? The way that blockchains traditionally are set up, certainly how Bitcoin is set up with what they call a proof of work consensus, is that one entity at any given moment within the entire network effectively wins a lottery, okay, by doing a bunch of work and coming up with the right answer. So you can almost think about it like this. I send 25 guys out into a field and I say, whoever digs the biggest ditch the quickest, you get to vote on behalf of everybody else in the network and decide what happens for that one round. Okay? That's not a democracy. Okay? That's the opposite of a democracy. That's what we in the old world call a dictatorship, right? Okay, so this is exactly the opposite of what Satoshi or whoever wrote those papers wanted to have happen. It's actually the opposite of what Bitcoin wanted to have happen too. It's not that they designed it this way, it's just that they didn't mitigate some of these risks and it developed this way. So Bitcoin 2.0 is get rid of those giant mining pools, shrink the technology to a point where we can actually all participate. What if we could all participate with our phones? Forget that we even have a desktop at home or 600 computers sitting in a mining pool. I can do this off my phone. Now there can be millions of people that can be part of that democracy, right? But instead of also just picking one of those people at any one time just because they happen to do the most work and therefore won the lottery and get to decide for the rest of the network what's happening, shouldn't everybody be able to decide that? In my mind, a democracy is where everyone is voting, right? Not where I pick somebody in the crowd and say, you get to vote now. Okay, next time you get to vote for everybody. I want everybody to vote, right? That's Bitcoin 2.0. That doesn't exist yet. Okay, it's coming. There are people who are starting to move in that direction very slowly, and there's a group that's coming in very quickly to do exactly what that is. And so getting back to that actual core of a decentralized, democratic network solution where you don't have to trust anyone in order to make sure that your transactions on this financial backbone that we call cryptocurrency get handled and get handled quickly. And that's the third point. Bitcoin 1.0 requires about 10 minutes to handle your transaction. Okay? Imagine you're sitting at Walmart, right, and you swiped your card and you had to wait 10 minutes. Well, that's assuming that your transaction's on that first block. What if it's on the fourth block? Now you're waiting 40 minutes. Are you going to stand there and wait for that approval to occur? Do you think Walmart's going to sit there and wait for that approval to occur? That's never going to happen. So 2.0 needs to be able to happen fast. And when we say fast, we mean sub-second fast. Otherwise, you can't spend it at these places that you like to spend your money. So that's a big challenge. And the very last piece is liquidity. Big word. What it really means is, can I actually convert that record that we're calling a cryptocurrency or a coin into cash that that merchant cares about? Because they don't care about that coin, because they can't pay their employees in that coin. They can't pay their expenses in that coin, but they can pay them in cash. So you got to figure out how to get from that to cash if you want to actually bridge the gap into modern society. That's the fourth and most prominent piece of Bitcoin 2.0. Doesn't exist yet. Bitcoin's not going to be able to create that. It's going to have to be another entity.